the au pair affair. Now the saga is finally over. Brendan Banfield sentenced to life in prison in a Fairfax County court. We have followed this trial for weeks and even longer, the case of Brendan Banfield, the Fairfax husband and father, and the family's au pair, his mistress, Juliana Perez Magalhaes. Their affair led to the double murder of his wife, Christine, and Joseph Ryan, the stranger he and the au pair lured into the home. Here to break down what we saw in court today is NBC News legal analyst Kristen Gibbons Feden. Kristen, I have to start first and foremost. I was going to ask you if there was anything that caught you by surprise, but I think we can all say we were surprised at Brendan Banfield's first remarks. Tell me what you thought when you heard him say he had lost faith in the justice system.
I was absolutely floored, particularly because after he heard from all of these loved ones, including his sister-in-law, and presumably he read all of the victim impact statements as well, that was what he wanted to start with, particularly when the judge had his life literally in her hands. You know, allocution is the defendant's opportunity to address the court before sentencing, but usually you'll hear some remorse, some reflection, some type of acknowledgement of the devastation. Because we know that he's going to appeal, we don't expect him to say, I did it, I'm sorry, I can't believe this. But at a very minimum, he could talk about the devastating loss of his wife, the devastating loss that his child is going to go through. And we didn't hear about that at all. You know, I'm not surprised as much because we saw that dynamic in trial, but man, I didn't expect to see it at sentencing. And here we are seeing it again.
Well, we did see that remorse from Juliana when it was her turn to be sentenced. We saw the exact opposite, lack thereof, today. Can we talk a little bit about Banfield's attorney's chance at trying to get this thing thrown out? I think Drew referred to it as a Hail Mary.
I would agree 100%. You know, from looking at the evidence, you know, you and I watched alongside this trial from start to finish. You know, I don't believe from a legal perspective there is a realistic path to winning this appeal. Of course, every defendant, particularly those facing life in jail, in his case, life plus an additional 8 years, he absolutely has to try. But, you know, appeals are not do-overs. You don't get to retry the facts. You really don't get a second jury. You just have to analyze the law. And I think, you know, in this particular case, I don't know that there were any legal findings that would justify an appeal in this case.
NBC News legal analyst Kristen Gibbons Feden, we appreciate you joining us, staying with us throughout the entire coverage of the case. Au pair affair. Kristen, thank you.